IT Freedom.
All right, so for those of you who don't know, my name is Matt Miller. Go ahead and go to the next slide here. I'm the Director of Business Development at IT Freedom. IT Freedom, we're a managed IT service provider out of Austin. I'll get into that a little bit. But I'm the Director of Business Development. I've also been a network engineer with IT Freedom, engineering manager. And at IT Freedom, we've been using Google Apps for probably about 5 years now internally. We've been partnered with Google as a Google Apps for Work partner for the last several years. So we got quite a bit of experience with Google Apps, and excited to share some of our insights about it and to kind of spread the word. So some housekeeping details first. Like I said, I'm Matt Miller. This is our first series, and what we hope is going to be a series of webcasts. So you'll definitely get an invite to the next one by virtue of signing up, but to kind of preview that, the topic we're going to do is called Hacker Proof Your Website, and Stuart, who was just talking a few seconds ago, will be a guest presenter on that. It's going to be about a month from now, so August 28th at 10 a.m. Central. Definitely hope that you all look out for that invite and plan to be there. All right, with that, let's go ahead and dive in. So Google Apps. In the questions, if anybody wants to kind of put their hand up, just tell me what you know about Google Apps, if you've heard of it, if you know what I mean or don't know what I mean when I say a set of collaboration tools or a collaboration suite. It'd be great to get an idea of where everyone's at, but just to dive in, Google Apps is a set of collaboration tools. So you guys are probably all familiar with what's kind of contained there. Typically, when we talk about a collaboration suite, we're talking about something that does emails, that does calendaring, increasingly things that have file sharing, chat, video conferencing, other capabilities like that. Now, you'll probably notice here the title here, Google Apps for Work. I want to explain that a little bit. So Google Apps is part of a larger kind of suite or effort on the part of Google to provide a set of products for work. So those are under the kind of header of Google for Work. You may see that if you kind of leave this webinar, maybe Google for Google Apps. You'll probably end up on the Google for Work page. Notice that there are a lot of other products out there. Google Chrome is considered part of the For Work suite. There are Chrome boxes that are sort of lightweight computers, a whole host of things. So just if you're out there researching this on your own, you'll probably run into that term. So like I said, the Google Apps is a component of Google for Work that contains these things here primarily. We're going to get into more detail of each of these categories in just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and keep going from there. All right, so to kind of set the stage for this discussion, Google Apps is considered a cloud-based application, part of the growing notion of moving to the cloud for your applications. I think to have a meaningful discussion about Google Apps, or really any cloud-based application, we should talk about what that means a little bit more if you're not familiar. So the cloud at this point is really a marketing term. You've almost certainly run into it at some point, and probably in a lot of different contexts. So the best general definition for that is we're looking to distinguish a way of hosting applications, of hosting servers and things like that from sort of the old way of doing things. The old way of doing things is if you have a need for, say, a new application, say an email server, a file server, something like that, you call up Dell or HP, you buy some physical hardware, they ship it to you. You set it up in your office. You install your email server application on it. From there, you're responsible for backing it up, for maintaining it, for the security of it, a whole host of things. The cloud is really just kind of a response to that. Given the fact that in this day and age we have fast, reliable internet connections in most anywhere, the web is truly a global network at this point that everyone can leverage. So what the cloud is really a place to host something, those applications, those servers, those files, somewhere else. So you're not having to go out and buy hardware and then having to back it up and maintain it yourself. It's really just a matter of putting that in a data center somewhere else. And from there, that can mean a lot of different things in specific terms, but most frequently it means that your data is hosted in the data center or data centers of a big provider like Google or Amazon or Microsoft. But like I said, it can mean a lot of different things. In this specific case, Google Apps is an email service and quite a bit more, as we'll talk about, that's hosted from Google's very robust, large number of data centers around the world. Finally, if you kind of jump off, use this webinar as a jumping off point to learning more, which I certainly hope you do, you'll probably run into terms like software as a service, possibly platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. Those terms are a whole other webinar into themselves. I'm not going to get into it too much, but if you do run into those terms, understand that Google Apps is part of what's called software as a service. So you're not, buying individual server time or anything like that in the cloud. You're actually getting a full-fledged application that you don't really have to know a lot about in technical terms. It just sort of is there in your web browser, and it's more or less maintained by the provider, in this case, Google. So at IT Freedom, kind of one of our core philosophies is to start with the business case for technology. We think technology enables you to do business, should make your business more efficient, and as we know that small business owners, really business owners in general, aren't necessarily technical people, don't necessarily get charged up and excited about technology in the same way that our staff does, and that's part of our business. So really, let's start with why should you care about Google Apps. The first slide here, financially. There's a big financial motivation for going to a service like Google Apps, as opposed to that scenario that I laid out a few minutes ago, where you're making a large upfront investment in hardware and then a long-term investment in software and maintenance. Google Apps is a small fixed monthly expense. So if you went out into the marketplace and said, hey, I want to buy Google Apps, you're going to pay about $5 per mailbox per month. That's a pretty good deal for everything you get. Secondly, the second bullet point here, you get off what we kind of call the software upgrade life cycle. You might hear it referred to as a treadmill, which is not a bad analogy. Every few years, for example, if you were hosting an email server running a piece of software called Microsoft Exchange, which is sort of previously was really the only email server you might use. That's changed a lot with Google Apps and other cloud-based services. But say if you had an in-house Microsoft Exchange server, you would be looking at upgrading that software every 2 to 5 years at considerable expense. With a product like Google Apps, that's no longer necessary. The software is all in the cloud. Upgrades are rolled out incrementally all the time. There's never a big, your IT provider, us or someone else, never come to you and say, hey, we need a 5-figure sum of money because we need a new server, we need the next version of Microsoft Exchange or whatever piece of server software. You're pretty much off that treadmill for good. And then finally, you get to stop paying for the support of those in-house servers, which can be pretty pricey, paying to monitor, backup, patch, ensure the security of, et cetera, in-house server infrastructures. It can be a pretty stiff cost. That cost is worth it for a lot of applications that aren't quite so commoditized, that aren't quite so really just easy and cheap to buy on the open market, like email. In our opinion, if you're a small business needing an email service, there's very little reason to do that in this day and age. Next slide here. Continuing with the why should I care theme, organizationally and technically. So Google Apps is hosted from Google data centers around the world. A Google Apps outage is one of those extremely rare, it's on the news type of events. It very rarely happens because of this resilient infrastructure standing behind the product. That's very hard to duplicate. If you were trying to, say, build your own email infrastructure, you put your email service in your office. There's a power outage at your office, an internet outage, any number of things can take it down. That's much less likely to happen with a cloud-based product like Google Apps. Secondly, I already mentioned this a little bit, Google Apps has really improved continuously. There's no, you're never going to see a major upgrade to the software in general. Incremental updates are really rolled out all the time. and just gets better all the time, which is great. Um, Also, there's really no waiting for the next new version of Outlook or your client software, because again, that's really all kind of built into the product, improved incrementally, and always getting better, which is great. Finally, there's really just a lot more to Google Apps than just email, calendaring, and kind of those basic things. So I'm going to cover those basic things and then dive a little bit more into the other features available and indeed actually just built into Google Apps, which is what we'll get into right now. So starting with the basics. Email, calendar, and contacts. As everybody probably knows, that's the core of any really good collaboration, really any collaboration suite. So Google Apps generally has feature parity with the other products that are out there in terms of enterprise-grade email software. If someone from Google were on the line, they would probably say, hey, we don't just have feature parity, we have feature superiority. I would agree with that, but I think that the main takeaway from this is that all the features you would need and expect a system like this to have will be there. Things like email addresses under your own domain name, distribution lists, etc. Those basic features are there. Things like resource mailboxes. So by that I mean when you want to have a calendar specifically for your conference room, perhaps for checking out items like projectors and laptops, that's all there. And then also, things like shared calendars, so sending calendar invites, having recurring meetings, all of that is built in. In these next few slides, I have this bolded topic called IT Freedom Insight. This is where I really want to kind of express some of the things that we've learned in many years of using and deploying Google Apps that may be a little less obvious, that you wouldn't necessarily get from reading Google's online documentation to hopefully add something unique to this discussion. So on the email, calendar, and contacts, our experience is really that if you're going to go with Google Apps versus, say, Office 365 or something like that, you're really better off embracing what I kind of refer to as the Googliness of things, as silly as that may sound. So a lot of people are probably used to using, say, Outlook for your email client. Google Apps provides the Gmail web interface, which honestly is, in this day and age, extremely familiar to most people from using Gmail. And it provides a much better experience with Google Apps because it was really designed for the way that Google designed their email product rather than using, say, Outlook, which has sort of the outdated concept of the hierarchical tree of folders, the fairly slow and limited search capabilities. Google has really reinvented the email experience in some ways, and you get so much more out of it when you really embrace that. So using the web-based interface, you can use it from anywhere. You never have to go, oh, I'm out of the office or I'm out of town and I don't have my computer with Outlook on it, so my email experience is radically different than I would like it to be. It's the same everywhere. And you get to take advantage of some extremely powerful features that Google's built into their Gmail product. Things like tagging emails rather than strictly using folders, the concept of archiving rather than deleting, extremely powerful filters, and my favorite is the search. Being able to search if you've ever used, again, Outlook search, and tried to really find a particular message, it's not the best experience in the world. Back when I used Outlook, I pretty much didn't use the search because it was not very useful. Google has applied their gold standard of web search to your email box, and you really can't imagine how much better it is to not have to file into folders, not have to spend a lot of time organizing your email, because you can search and actually find what you need. It really is a revolutionary experience. So you have to see it to believe it. Move on from there. So file storage, the product is called Google Drive, but the purpose here is file storage. So Google Drive is a similar product to other cloud-based file storage solutions. You may be familiar with Dropbox, you may be familiar with Box. There are a lot of products out there. This is Google's equivalent, and it's extremely strong product in my opinion. To back up a little bit though, you may be familiar with file shares. So if you kind of work in a relatively typical office, you probably have what you may have heard called mapped drive letters. You know, you go to My Computer, there are letters there that are on the network server. This is sort of like that, basically a way to share files. But this is, again, in the cloud rather than on a local server. Google Drive lets you access those shared files from either a web browser type interface, or they have a piece of software that you can install on your local computer, Mac, Windows, whatever operating system you're running, and actually synchronize your files to provide a similar experience to the file shares you may be familiar with. This is an extremely powerful product, and when we use it almost exclusively here at IT Freedom, internally anyway. We don't have a file server anymore. Our insight with this product is that while it is excellent, it's not exactly the same as having, say, a file share on a server in your own office. And we've actually had to bail out really a few companies who have come to us after trying to move to a product like Google Drive, but also to other similar cloud-based products, because they kind of went in with this expectation that it would behave exactly the same way as a local file share. And the reality is a little more subtle than that. So it's a fairly technical difference that I'm not going to dive too far into, but suffice to say, you would be better off working with a qualified IT vendor, partner, or just an IT person really in general. If you have any more questions about this, like I said, I don't want to derail into an overly technical discussion here, but please shoot me an email. I'll be happy to discuss it more. So moving on to Google Docs now. Google Docs are really tightly integrated with the Google Drive product that we just talked about. So Google Docs can be thought of as a rough equivalent to the Microsoft Office suite of products, so things like Word, like Excel, but these are all in-browser version of the apps. So when I say that, you're not, what I mean is you're not downloading, say, Microsoft Office, installing on your computer and running it as a local program. Rather, you're actually in your web browser and using kind of web-based versions of those tools. So Google Docs, again, this is something that we use extensively at IT Freedom and encourage our customers to use in the right use cases. Again, the IT Freedom insight on this slide is really, it's quite similar to what we talked about with Google Docs, is that really the right use case is critical. The very cool thing about Google Docs is that the collaboration aspects of the tools are extraordinarily powerful. So if you say you have a document that you're working on and you and several coworkers are working on it, rather than sort of the traditional experience with, say, a Word document, where that document is saved to your file server, you can open it kind of for editing one at a time. If a second person tries to open it while someone already has it open, they get, an error. Do you want to open this as a read-only file, because you can't commit changes to the same file at the same time. Google Docs really solves that problem in an extremely powerful way. So that same scenario with Google Doc, more than one person can jump into that same document at the same time. Everyone can see where everyone else's cursor is, see the changes that they're making in real time, and be making changes at the same time in different sections of the document. Also includes powerful features like commenting. So if there's a question or a comment about a particular section, you highlight, right-click, say comment. You drop in a comment about that section with your question or comment. Your coworkers can see it instantly. If they're not in the doc at the moment, they get an email notice about it. It really speeds up the collaboration that I think a lot of us do day to day, that we certainly do here day to day at IT Freedom. It's revolutionary in terms of how much faster and more efficient it makes that process. And I hope that this is sort of at least sensible or appealing to you if you've ever gotten into one of those situations where you're emailing versions of a document back and forth, for instance, with somebody outside the company, where they're not necessarily able to use your file server, so you're making changes, saving them, attaching it to an email, sending it, they're doing the same thing and sending it back. This solves that problem completely. So That all sounds great, and it is great, but the catch is that we're not talking about Microsoft Word, that exact experience and product here. We're not talking about Excel. So if you're, say, a lawyer who is very used to formatting extremely important, documents that need to be formatted and laid out in a certain way, you probably don't want to be doing that in Google Docs. If you're an accountant used to, leveraging every advanced feature of Microsoft Excel, Google Sheets probably isn't the product for you. But for the vast majority of us who create fairly straightforward documents, fairly straightforward spreadsheets, and more importantly, collaborate on them, this is an extremely powerful tool that I'd encourage everyone to check out. Okay, so we're on to Google Hangouts now. This product, the name Hangouts, has been around for a few years now. It really encapsulates several different products or features, really. The most basic kind of mode that Hangouts operates in is text-based chat. So when you're in that Gmail web interface, and then the same thing exists in the @gmail.com, if you have an @gmail.com address, sort of the personal version of Gmail. This exists there too, so it's very easy to check out. Some of you may already be familiar with it. But in that web interface, you'll have a little box showing your contacts. You can see a little green dot next to them when they're online. You can click on them and have a real-time chat, much like text messaging, SMS messaging, a lot of things that people are familiar with. It provides that. The way that Hangouts improves on that experience versus, say, just using SMS or using a third-party chat tool is that it's really integrated with your email domain. So everybody who has say, @yourcompany.com email, they have this built into their email, so everybody is on the same platform. If you so choose, those messages can be logged kind of in your email box, so that, much like there's a record of communications of employees sending and receiving emails, there's a record of them sending and receiving chat messages. This is a great tool that really I think any company these days should have. It's another big efficiency builder. In many cases, sending a quick text message is much easier and quicker than having a meeting. In those text chats, you can pull in more than one people and have multi-way chats. So it's a powerful but simple tool. The more full-scale version of the Hangout, we're on the second bullet point here, provides really what's easily thought of as a meeting simulator. So things like video conferencing, screen sharing, drawing on the screen, a broad range of tools for really doing meetings from anywhere. So if you have a distributed workforce, if people work from home occasionally, it can be a huge boon for companies that work in that way or would like to work that way by enabling face-to-face meetings without physical presence. This product also includes what's called Google Hangouts On Air, which is basically for broadcasting. So if you wanted to hold a meeting with, say, your customers or your vendors or a set of prospects or whatever it may be, something where it's not so much, a meeting as you want to talk to a group of people. This is designed for that and supports, hundreds of users. And cool thing that we have, again, started using internally here and for our customers, great success. There's an actual product called Google Chromebox for meetings, which is a small physical box that you plug into, say, the TV screen in your conference room and your break room, that brings that video conferencing experience to room size, to larger rooms, larger groups, and that product comes with wireless speakerphone, camera to fully enable that for a room. There are competing products out there, that have been used for video conferencing for a long time, but spending $10,000, $50,000 on a system like that was not at all uncommon. The Chromebox for meetings are more on the order of $1,000. So, and the software is all built into Google Apps, which, if you're using it for your email system already, means it pretty much seamlessly integrates with your existing set of users, calendars, etc. Again, a very powerful product for a very, very good value. All right, and then finally, this is sort of the last slide about Google Apps as a suite. There's so much more to Google Apps. I think the apps moniker really originally came from the fact that Google opens up their what's called an API, an application programming interface, to third-party developers, which lets other developers integrate with Google Apps in really cool ways to create their own applications. There's a site called the Apps Marketplace where you can go and shop for apps to integrate with your Google environment once you're on it. Enables all kinds of features, lets you log in with your Google account on other platforms. Really cool stuff, but again, a whole webcast unto itself, so we're just going to leave it at that. On the second bullet here, Google has published scripting languages, and they provide what's called the App Engine and a number of other kind of cloud-based platforms that let you do more advanced things, suffice to say. But if you are the type of place that maybe has programmers or might have a need to develop a custom application of some kind, Google provides a lot of tools to facilitate that. Again, not going to get too far into the technical details here, but it's good to know that exists if your organization might find some use in it. Finally here, like I mentioned at the top of the webcast, the Google for Work product suite encompasses a wide range of things. The Chrome boxes that I mentioned, what I mentioned before was a specific version of that called Chromebox for Meetings. There are other types of Chromeboxes and Chromebooks, basically lightweight computers that are very good for kind of basic needs. If you had, say, in your office a need for a small kiosk for visitors, if you were running an organization with a public lobby and wanted to provide, kiosks or some type of internet access for them, or let people visiting your facility fill out contact form, all kinds of use cases there. Again, a whole webcast unto itself, but lots of cool things out there. And then finally, a bit about IT Freedom. As I mentioned, we are a certified Google Apps for Work partner, which means that we're authorized by Google to resell and are certified to have the experience to implement Google Apps correctly and well, and we've been doing it for years, so we're great at it, frankly. We are, as I said, we're a managed service provider, so our business is really focused on being the IT department for small businesses, so we're not so much looking to sign up customers for Google Apps specifically. We rather use Google Apps to provide a unified IT experience. We actually include Google Apps at no extra charge in our managed IT services to really try to provide our customers with a great and entirely comprehensive IT solution. So contact information is there on the screen as well. If you want to learn more about Google Apps, if you just want to chat for a while about it, have any questions about what I've laid out here, please don't hesitate to give me a call or an email. I'd be happy to talk to you about any of those things. And then finally, as we said at the beginning of the webcast, this is going to be the first in a series of webcasts. The next one is October 28th at 10 a.m. You'll be getting an invite by email. If you know of anybody else who might be interested in this, please, again, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to add them to the invite list, or feel free to pass on the invite when you get it.
IT Freedom.